ka ruta mo senior secondary school. Me sengwe se se sa itsegeng ka nna ke gore nako e neng ke le morutabana ne ke katisa, ne ke le coach ya football. Yaanong ke sengwe se se sa itsegeng. Mme mo bogompienong ke moeledi wa ditshwanno tsa matitjhara. Ke le mokwaledi mogolo wa union ya Botswana Sectors of Educators Trade Union, Bosetu. Thank you very much.
Akere gape ho sa ipoke o te bo ke ke mang ra re a meeting ya go ne ntsha madu. Okay, let's just start here. For all of you, why is it important for Botswana to find a balance between sport and education, especially for young learners and athletes?
I think you can start, Ms. Good.
Okay. I think it's very clear in the world that we live in that knowledge mastery alone cannot be enough. We need to balance what we do. Like the theme says, balancing books with boots. It's important that we create that balance because we cannot rely entirely on one or the other. So that is why it's important for us to create a balance between academics and sports. Thank you.
Rezi Bochwa.
Yes, you know, sometimes as you grow old, you tend to forget some of your titles. I'm also a chairperson for the medical committee for the Football Union of Botswana. It is very, very important to have a balance between sports and education, because one cannot exist in isolation. There should be coexistence of the two domains, because the other should act as a backup, either the education or sports. Because if that equilibrium is not there, then this youngster or this individual will not have a balanced life as such. Because one, if you acquire one as an athlete and probably relinquish the education, then which means you are just like a runway horse without any knowledge to back up what you have actually indulged in as a sports individual. So the binary between the two domains will make your life easier because they will be supporting each other. We are not going to be talking about the separation of the two, because the separation of the two will jeopardize this individual. We have also seen individuals who dwelt much on one domain and ignored the other. For example, if you get to, I'll stick to soccer. If you get to prominent players like Cristiano Ronaldo guy, at 13 years, he concentrated much on soccer and ignored the academic aspect. But as he developed, as he grew, then he realized that there was that gap. And now he's an advocate for education. You can see now he's drawing the education nearer to his acquisition as a sports person.
Thank you. Raseleka?
It's very important, like it said, that we can't separate the two. They are equally important. Maybe just to kickstart by saying, we have moved from the narrative that sport is just play, to no benefit. Sport has just tended to be a multi-billion industry. You know, it competes with any other industry that you can think of now. So leaving sport behind and only going for education, that means you are disadvantaging yourselves in creating multi-pathway career. So sport has joined all the other sectors that we have known for a long time that are, best known in the world to be the most benefiting. So now, education, like, they supplement each other. What sporting you learn, what tuto you learn, and you need that energy that you get from sport. So you can't separate the two. Tota, like it said, the two, they go hand in hand and they are inseparable.
Rerari, the question is yours.
Yeah, I think first I need to put this clear. Hore, re tle re thatswe gone mo gore go na le batho ba ba akanyang gore the trade union, particularly Botswana sectors of educators trade union bosetu, e kgathanong le sports ko dikolong. I think I want to make it abundantly clear today to all and sundry that Bosetu supports school sports. And I want it to be noted as such. We support it and we will encourage its coming back, and we will no doubt support it. The reason for us to support it is that, sports has always played a critical role in molding the behavior of students. Students who get into academics, immediately after school, they're expected to walk home, and without them being engaged, there is a possibility of them becoming vulnerable to things that really destroy them, like drugs, like getting into intimate relationships, because they have got ample, abundant time in their hands, which they use for nothing. I think it has always been said, and this idiom is as old as the human being itself. The devil, the mind which is not occupied becomes the devil's workshop. An idle mind becomes the devil's workshop. So now we feel that sports need to be there, and we need to get a right equilibrium or balance between sports and education, as one of the reasons is the one that I've articulated. Not only that, but look, we need sports, we need academics. But later on, I will provide a different drift, Madam Chair. I will have a drift. And this drift, it's about us as a country trying to revolutionize our education system such that we have complete different pathways of education. But however, before I do that, I think I need also to point out that, a well-rounded mental of a human being is a mental health that is also supplemented by some sporting activities or physical activities. So a child in the classroom would not be as active and as attentive as he would be if that child is not active on the physical side, which is the sporting side. And therefore there is need for a balance and an equilibrium between sports and academics. So we do support that balance.
All right. My next question is also for all panelists, and You represent different sectors and you play different roles in creating this equilibrium that we've all spoken of. And I want to know from your different perspectives what the main challenges are or that currently make it difficult for students to pursue both education and sports effectively. I think we can start with you, Rerari, while you still have the mic on.
Okay, no, thank you very much. The situation in our schools is such that the academic part of the school comes in first, and most of the time in the country, Botswana, you'll find that academics is sort of given priority. And sports comes as a sort of an afterthought. That is to say, even the parents, when you go home, batla gora bari ngwanake we tshwaralle go ithuta sports o ta se bona ko morago. So sports has always been placed after education. So we want now a situation where that kind of a mentality, the orthodox mentality that has existed in our schools, to change. And I will argue that we want now to have an education system that has got pathways where you have schools of excellence, and schools of excellence that might include sports and culture, where talent is going to be identified at an early age, and you do not necessarily have to force that particular student to go through the theoretical academic education up to Form 5. If you identify that child at an early age and you spot talent on that child, and that child is also willing that he can pursue the route of sports and culture, then there should be proper schools of excellence where those students can be channeled to. Because our view as a union is that sports and culture can become part of the drivers of the economy. Times are gone now where we are looking at resources like diamonds only as the drivers of the economy. So our economy should be diversified such that we even invest on sports and culture, such that, like I have said, children at an early age, before they could even reach Form 1, they are identified and then they are channeled. But they should not only be channeled, they should be proper schools of excellence to then mold them. They can become coaches, they can become athletes themselves. There are many other ways in which they can have a better life through sports and culture.
Metsukudu, I'd love to hear a perspective on this.
Yes, thank you, sir. One of the challenges that we have in effecting sports or running it at the same time with academics is resources. Resources in terms of time. A lot of our teaching time, a lot of time in our schools is dedicated to teaching. In primary schools, schools run from 7:30 in the morning up to around 1:30 in the afternoon. And the same applies to secondary schools, both junior and senior secondary schools. Students are engaged in academics from morning until around 1 or 2, depending how their schedules are. And that leaves very little time for sports to fall within the 8 hours that teachers work. From that time, they have a 1-hour lunch, and then they come back for afternoon study. So sports is generally a time-intensive activity, and allocating it an hour or an hour 30 minutes would definitely be inadequate. Resource, again, in terms of the infrastructure, the sporting facilities in our schools. We have schools that do not even have grounds within the school premises. So this creates a challenge in operating both sports and academics. And because of that reason, these limited facilities and resources create difficulty in fully participating in sports. Resources again in terms of manpower. A lot of our teachers are not specialists in sporting activities. Of course, we have teachers that have been trained in various sporting codes. We have football coaches, we have volleyball coaches, we have softball coaches. But it's not a number that is significant enough for us to say we as a ministry can run with the sporting activities in our schools without assistance from other people. So I believe that these are some of the challenges that are making it difficult for sports to fully operate in our schools, particularly our private schools. I mean, our public schools, not our private schools. Private schools are always better built to accommodate sporting activities. You find a school that has a tennis court, a softball court, a basketball court. So these are things that are not available in public schools. So that would be my thinking in terms of the challenges that perhaps hinder the full implementation of sporting activities in our schools. Thank you, sir.
Emma, Reseleka and then Resibocha.
Thank you so much. There are many factors that impede us to do this, to balance education and sport. One of the factors is time management and scheduling conflicts. As said by my panelists, you know, it's we prioritize education. We give it the 98% of the time that is available for students in schools. Then the only 2% that is left for sport. For a coach, because I'm a volleyball coach, for a proper volleyball training, I need I need at least 1.5 hours per session. But in most cases, students are released from 4:30. They can only train for 30 minutes, 5:30 for those who are boarding. It's already dinner time, they have to go for dinner. So the 30 minutes that are at the ground, it's just warm-up time. They can't do you can't teach techniques that you need to teach the young people. So we prioritize education over sport. So there's no balance. There's no enough time that is allocated for sport so that we can explore it to the fullest. One other factor is the limited resources. She has already spoken about it. The kind of facilities that we have in our schools or in our communities, do they allow for proper training? Do they allow for proper engagement? Is it a conducive environment for our athletes to love and do sport? No, it's not. You know, when you train a football player in this hard ground, when they fall, the young ones, when they fall and they get a scratch, you know, the next day they will not come for training. So, you know, it creates fear in them. So the environment is not conducive for these young people to love and even to think sport is something they can pursue for a career. One other factor that it's a challenge, it's a lack of specialized support. You know, we have these young people who have already committed to be in sport, but whenever they go for sport during academic period, you know, when they come back, there's no time for catch up. There's no provision for that on how they should catch up on the piece that they would have missed during their sport time, or there's no provision for even tutors during their training camps away from class. So this also brings fear to these young people that Now, if they leave class and then they go for sport, it's a disadvantage to them. So they end up going for prioritizing education or academics. You know, there are a lot more other factors that really are not putting us in a good place to say we can balance sport and education. Because even awareness, our parents, are we encouraging our kids to do sports? No, they would rather discourage you to do sport. They say, go for books, because that's your future. We are not yet, we have not yet realized that sport is also a sector that we can, explore and leverage on nowadays. I'll stop this far.
Yeah, I think they've actually, there's what you call thought withdrawal. They've withdrawn all the thoughts from me. Then probably I will dwell on the thought insertion, insert my thoughts to them again. The challenge that we have as Football Union Botswana is that, there is much ignorance pertaining to the education aspect. It is an aspect of attitude that what is attached to these players now is the salaries, and they overshadow the education. And that alone becomes a very, very difficult situation for us to change them. But with other interventions, like, involving psychologists, involving those that can probably, show them that issues of money alone, without education, you might probably at the end not manage what you have acquired as assets. And you'll depend on hiring somebody to say, manage my assets. But if at all you could have acquired the education, then there will be that balance of what you have acquired through sports and also what you have acquired through education. The other thing that is actually a challenge here is inadequate governance. Issues of standards, regulations, and policies. To marshal all these irregularities that we are combated with. Because mostly you would not get a legislation or legal framework that enforces the aspect of acquisition of the two. But if you look at the Children's Act of 2009, yes, indeed, it does say at least they should be focused on education and leisure. And also, if you look at, as a union, looking beyond the 2009 Children's Act, we also looked at some international, conferences of the Union, of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Children with the rights of children, where now there are certain articles that cements on that. For example, Article 3, which talks about best interest of the child. So we need all the time, when we deal with these aspects, the child should be there, and the best institution of whatever we do should benefit this kid. And the challenge now is, we'll always have this individual alone without the guardian. And sometimes the guardian would repel and say, that guy or that individual should acquire the academic aspect. Then when we want to probably bring in the guardian, time is stolen from that. And still dwelling on that article of the Nation Convention on the Rights of the Child, we also look at the article, the right to be heard. These kids or this individual, they should have the liberty to express themselves and say, I need this and that. And as unionists in football, we do give guidance, because these are challenges. Because what I've said is that what is hooked to this is the monetary aspect, which overshadows the academic aspect. And also looking at this Article 28 of the convention, it also talks about the right to education. You can see now that this is very, very important from the diaspora, and that, the issues of education are also echoed by our Children's Act. And the other issue is that the challenge that we're having is that there is competition within our systems. Have the Football Union Botswana, have the Football Association, have other stakeholders. Rather than actually bringing our heads together to help this individual, there is competition. And we are tearing this individual apart and confusing this individual, and at the end, he might not actually adhere to what will benefit to him or her as an individual, which is dual education and sports. There's also this challenge of one model which is called the CREST model, which is CREST, where there is problem of communication. As we communicate with this individual, already what they have in mind is that I cannot get to education, but rather adhere to the current situation where I'm getting the salary. The other aspect is respect. Other stakeholders, take for example, would probably adhere to sports. Take for example our clubs. I played for Gaborone United. The team was very supportive. Wherever I was going, they will ask, did you get your books? When you're getting to the next lesson, what is the arrangement? As soon as we play in Francistown, there'll be a special vehicle which will ferry me to Gaborone as soon as possible so that I arrive there and arrange. But the current situation, it's a problem. Now these managers, we need to drill them. This is the problem the challenge that we have. These managers of these various teams, their focus is sports. They will never ever support these kids. You see, then we need to change their thinking in order to acquire the dual, the binary concept of education and sports. And the other issue is support. We have seen that these individuals, these unions, they lack support on the educational aspect. Therefore, we have seen it as a union, and what we did, we have dwelt into memorandum of understanding with some universities like Botu. We have enrolled about 5 players for the diploma and degrees in association with business studies. I think they'll be finishing very, very, very soon, maybe next year, because we went into this memorandum of understanding in 2020. And currently last year, we went into the memorandum of understanding with CITF, where now we have enrolled 6 players who are now doing thatching and plumbing. You can see now that this union is recognizing this and trying to balance the aspect of sport and probably the education. Thank you.
If you just joined us, we are here at Francistown Civic Center, where we are joined by Botswana National Sport Commission Director of Sport Development, Repisful Seleka, Secretary General of Bosetu Reto Kanirari, a man wearing many hats, Patrick Zibochwa, and from Ministry of Basic Education and Child Welfare, Me Tsukudu. Ke dumela gore la baganya dipotso tsa lona. When you are ready, ke tla bona ka go tsholetsa matsogo ga lona. Re Seleka, how is the BNSC working to integrate sport into the education system in a more structured way?
Thank you, Ms. G. As I earlier indicated, the BNSC It's a body that is mandated to regulate sport in Botswana, and we want to do it in a more professional way. Just to start with, the board of the BNSC, it's composed, or one of the board members, it's from or represents the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education. That's where we start, because we want a representation from the ministry that deals with sport, so that they come and give guidance, so that we come and work together to ensure that there is this balance between sport and education. We have, as a commission, adopted a long-term athlete development framework, in which is aligned to educational groups, or the educational setup, where we have programs that are aligned to different age categories in the education system. We have our grassroots program, which is Rebabonaha, that covers the ages at primary schools. And then we have the Centers of Sport Excellence, which is a program that we find at junior secondary schools and senior secondary schools. And then thereafter that, we also have another program that we have termed it Elite Scholarship. That is now after secondary school, when you go to tertiary, there's another program that takes you from secondary school to your tertiary education, ensuring that you go there, still you are doing a dual career. So we have aligned ourselves with the Ministry of Education, and we have an existing MOU that we have with the Ministry of, we also have an MOU with the Ministry of Higher Education that deals with now with the elite scholarship. Besides that, again, for those who would have dropped out of schools, we don't leave them out. We have another program termed Elite Zebra Fund, that we support athletes, potential athletes, to continue to train and even do their studies if they wish so. Those would be local athletes that would have not managed to go to tertiary education in terms of the elite scholarship. So we are so much aligned. We work together with the Minister of Education, and we want to ensure a balance between education and sports. And we keep on working with them, even as currently we are working hand in hand in trying to resuscitate school sports. It's a program that we are working together. My comrade we are always engaging, and you know, it's a difficult task, but it's not that difficult. It's only a matter of us understanding the importance of sport and education, and also coming to a conclusion that we have to give this young people a chance to also play sports whilst they are pursuing their academic careers.
All right. Before we go on, I'd just like to recognize the presence of the Mayor of Francistown, His Worship Reha Namajere. Good evening and welcome to our panel discussion. It's a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for hosting us this evening. Please give him a round of applause. And to our panelists, just a quick reminder that our microphones are directional, so just keep them by your lips at all times.
The lips not kissing. Remember, we invited Ministry of Sports and Arts. Unfortunately, they couldn't confirm for the reasons known by them, in case you're wondering why they're not here.
Now, I think still with you, Reseleka, and maybe we can also follow it up with Metsugudu about the partnerships and frameworks that the BNSC perhaps has with schools and the ministry to promote that balance that we're looking to strike and long-term athlete development.
Thank you, sir. Currently, like many of you would know, the sporting activities are centered within the Ministry of Youth, Gender, Sports and Culture. And therefore, a lot of the activities that are being designed for schools, if I may put it that way, are coming from the Ministry of Youth, Gender, Sports and Culture. You would also be aware that there was a time when sports was part of academics, like sports was within the school, and we only interacted with the Ministry of Sports only when our learners went out for competitions, whether it would be regional competitions, national competitions, international competitions. But as time went on, this became centralized within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. So the reintegration of sports in schools would ideally be one of the ways in which we can develop our athletes. I think many of the athletes, if not all of them, they start from the grassroots, which would be our primary schools, our junior secondary schools. As I was looking at this picture in front of us, I thought I saw somebody who is one of my students. I've been a teacher for 28 years this year, and I've taught across the country, in the central region, in the northwest region, and here in the northeast region. And I know for a fact that in the northwest region, children love sports. They are passionate about sport. A lot of them would prefer to do sports than to be in the classroom. And they do have the skills that, if nurtured, they could really go far with their sports careers. So now what has been happening is we've had a program that is called Matlahola Tsela. I believe that you would have heard about it over the radio. It's a program that was talked about a lot, I think, about 2 years ago. And this is a program that was meant to motivate those who are interested in sports, being the teachers and the learners, to go back into playing sports. But it never really took off, perhaps as well as it was initially intended. And in the end, it became like something that was optional. Because I know that here in Francistown, there were schools that were taking it, like they embraced it, and they ran with it. And it was only a small number of our primary schools and our senior secondary schools. So it was a little bit difficult to monitor or even to encourage, because a lot of the logistics were within the Ministry of Youth, Gender, Sport and Culture. The intended outcome was that this Matlahola Tsela program was going to be sort of like a pilot project that was going to run for a period of time. And at the end of that pilot project, there was supposed to be now the reintegration of sports back into our schools. But because the program itself was not very successful, we never really saw the coming back of sports in our schools. But it's something that we look forward to having, because we do understand that not every child is academically gifted. There are children that may not necessarily do well in school, but would do very, very well outside the classroom. Some children are good players of football, but you give them a test, they will get an F or a G. So we do realize that it's important for us to combine sports with academics, so that those who are passionate about sports would take the route of sport, while those who are academically gifted would take the route of academics. We've also had in the past schools that were identified as schools of excellence. These schools would have various sporting activities, like if I have to give an example of Good Hope. I know that Good Hope was a center for volleyball, for softball, and for athletics. And This meant that when students completed their JC in various parts of the country and they had this athletic skill of some sort, then they would go to Good Hope. Mataspe was one of those schools, Masunga Syria was one of those schools, and I know also that Radisele Junior Secondary School was also one of the schools that had been identified as schools of excellence. This was meant to develop the talents that learners have, right from a tender age, which would be at primary school and then junior secondary school and then senior secondary school. Then thereafter, they would find their way within the sports world. They would find what they would do. Because like they say, you know, you have to love what you do and do what you love. Sometimes we just force learners to sit inside the classroom when they would otherwise be more comfortable doing something else. So I believe that had these not dwindled, this would have been a good opportunity for children who are passionate about sports to find their dreams, to find themselves, so that they even make a living out of doing sports. Like we see, these days we see young Botswana that are making a living out of doing sports. Like this poster that is in front of us is a typical example of people that have been successful in sports, not just athletics, but even other sporting activities like playing volleyball. We know now that we have one Botswana who has retired, if I may put it that way, from active sports, but is now a coach in a foreign country. So this can be inspiration and motivation for those that are coming up. And it's important that as a ministry, we have sports in our schools, and sports that is not optional, sports that has guidelines that can be used to enforce these guidelines so that children can benefit from these activities. It's unfortunate that now that we've lost quite a number of people or a number of learners from not having sports in our schools. Learners that we knew had the potential, learners that we could see had the passion and the love for sports, but we never know how they ended because we were not able to give them what they needed for their talent to be cultivated.
Thank you, Metsukud.
Nagwege Maba, arara ben dipotso hela under a minute. Rera, from the union's standpoint, how do teachers and schools currently handle student athletes competing demands? And Gatla Gorolona, after Arava Gilona.
Kawana kana how hakologelwa school sports se sa tlhole se le teng mo dikolong. Se eme way before COVID, I think around 2018 or so. We have been having some engagements. First, we had an engagement le Hauri Landland, Ministry of Child Welfare. It was called Basic Education then. Told us that sports is going to be run now by the Ministry of Sports, to be sports and arts. We accepted that maybe this is a welcome development. And the rest knows, on several occasions, we held meetings to try and come to a consensus representing the teachers as to how sports could be run within our schools run by the Ministry of Sports and Culture. But I think people would know that sometimes last year, government then said they were going to launch school sports. It was launched in Lubatsa. We met minister. I think this narration we are wrestling with. We met Minister of Sports and we said to Minister, no, Minister, we think that we were still on the table and we hear about the launch. We do not even know the nitty-gritties of how the sports would take place at the school level. Unfortunately, at that point, we were now told that the sports has now been taken back to the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education. And they were going to be run within the working hours, which then means that the time, the 8-hour period, that is between 7:30 and 4:30, is now going to be shared between sports and academics. We differ fundamentally because we feel that we are still going back to what we are talking about, to the culture where now sports is going to be subsidiary to academics. Not only that, but look, teachers between 7:30 and 4:30, they are trying to produce results in terms of their core mandate. Their core mandate is teaching. And at the same time, you are now saying there should be intermittent breaks. I don't know how it is going to be done, but there should be intermittent breaks between the lessons so that students go to sports. This, remember, was done and said without our involvement. This, remember, was also launched in Lubat, meaning that when you launch something, you mean that it is going to start. But look, we are running into the third term. The whole of the term, second term, passed, no school sports in schools. And this is exactly what we were saying. And saying, we feel it is premature, we need to sit and discuss. You were asking me a direct question, how do teachers help students? I can only narrate about how the sports was in the past immediate, because currently there is no school sports. I can only narrate in the past. What happened was, this is what the teachers were doing. They would teach from 7:30 up until 4:30. Then from 5:00, maybe up to 6:30, the students will be at their various sporting courts and teachers will be assisting the students. The elephant in the room is here. The elephant in the room is here. With the new Public Service Act number 30 of 2008, when a teacher works beyond, and I want to make this clear because there is always a confusion. There is a confusion sports. No, they're not saying that. Teachers are saying, if you engage us beyond 4:30, please follow what is in the Employment Act by giving us or compensating us for overtime worked. That is all that the teachers are saying. Look, the government of the UDC, they were with us. We were blaming the Botswana Democratic Party and saying they don't want to spend in sports to produce those stars that are at the back there. They don't want to spend. And the expenditure that we are talking about is not paying teachers for the expertise that they instill in the athletes. It's paying them for their time. Not even paying, compensating them for their time. So now we are saying, now the UDC is in power. Let them come here. Compensate teachers. Let them participate as they have been participating and unearth talent and pass it over for the others to develop it so that we have those athletes that we see on the board. So that is all that what we are saying. We don't demand heaven and earth. We only demand that teachers be recognized for the extra mile that they go. But if they want to bring it within the working hours between 7:30 and 4:30, they have to tell us what they want to do. because there is also academics where the teachers are going to be assessed on, and they will be promoted based on their delivery on academics.
Thank you, Rerari. Thank you for narrating that story. Before we move on, if you're just tuning in to Gabz FM Power to Engage Your World, we are live on Ace of Sports with myself, Tapo Slow, and Ms. G. We are having a 2-hour panel discussion right here from the Francistown Civic Center. And the topic we are chopping up this evening is balancing education and sports in Botswana, striking the right balance. A big shout out to all our partners, Botswana National Sports Commission, the BNSC, for partnering with us on this panel discussion. The Gambling Authority of Botswana, our partners at Ace of Sports. We'd also like to give a big shout out to Hydromat, Motaung Doppers, Evolia Sportswear, Bosetu, the Botswana Sector of Educators Trade Union, the Francistown City Council, and T-Connect Botswana, Starlink authorized resellers for providing us with connectivity this evening. Ms. G, we are going to start taking questions from the floor. We have one. Kindly introduce yourself and please feel free to ask any of our panelists a question.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Piloto Machibe. I think my first question, I think you have already touched it because I was about to ask if you could redesign the school curriculum, how would you balance education and sport? And then my second question is to the gentleman there. How would you advise, what's his name? Oh, sorry, Mr. Seleke. Thank you so very much. What advice would you give to a student who loves sports, but in a pressure to focus only on studies? And to Mr. Patrick, this is the last question. How can community encourage youth? In your opinion, what defines success, academic achievement, sports excellence, or both? Or should I repeat? Yeah. Should I repeat my question? Yes, sir. I was saying, in your opinion, what defines success, academic achievement, sports excellence, or both? Thank you.
Do you have any?
Good evening, gentlemen, ladies. I'm Happy Chabota. My question it has to do with the School of Excellence. Earlier on, I had there's a question, and then about the challenges faced by sports and education. Mostly about the facilities, lack of facilities in junior schools and senior schools. But I want to believe for early School of Excellence did this is for sports. I want to believe for with schools with facilities to help them develop their sporting skills. But now, one of the challenges is on the facilities. So I don't know what is it being done to what is it being done for those School of Excellence? Didn't know the facilities they long because these are development their students. Last question. Masuguru now we are Northwest. I worked in Northwest, and she's right when she says go Northwest, but that sports it too much. So my question is, when is some sort of School of Excellence side that side, and that's where I know for most kids, some get volleyball or mabelo and everything that side. Something like Good Hope, maybe go Shaka way senior. I don't know. Thank you.
Dumela, nake bitswa Shadrack Mudiakotla. Shadrack Mudiakotla ke mothatela dithuto tsa sport, recreation and leisure mo Francistown College of Technical and Vocational Education. Ibile ke le a volunteer. Yeah, sports. I've been with Mataspe for the past 17 years. Kikatisa volleyball, where we have graduated and produced a lot of athletes. Some have played professionals. I don't know what but nna ke ne ke dumela hela gore mo sporting gore se te sa atege thata whether it's academics or sona sport ka sebele re tshwanetse re nne le a complete package. A complete package re na le mo go bitswang gote an integrated sports teams. Tota nna re eletsa gore re ye gone ko e leng gore re a go bona re na le a department of sports mo sekolong se e leng gore go tabe go na le batho ba e leng gore ba tabe ba lebagane le yone kgang eo hela gongwe re ka se dire lehatshe lotlhe. Of course we have to try and see gore mo dikolong kana mo dikgwalong ya ka mo go tshwana bua. If we go to Northwest, a re bate dikolo tse pedi and re be re dira a complete team. Re nna le gore go nne le di-psychologists ya ka motho ana bua, go nne le di-trainers gore bana ba rona ba te ba ne complete athletes ga ba hetsa sekolo kana re tle re kgone gore re ntshe gore re se ka ra dira di-numbera hela re dire mo go teng quality. We need the right personnel. We need qualified administrators. Ba ba ranang sekolo, ba ba ranang sport mo dikolong. Ke yone go re tshwantse re ye teng. Gongwe ke kganye e se monate, but ke think we have to leave teachers to teach and bring the qualified personnel to the grounds to run sports. Let's have Department of Sports with a fully complementary staff. Gore re tle re kgone go bona gore sport se ya sa dira ka gore re se le kona bua gore is business. Mahatsa mangwe ba ja mo sporting. So let's try by all means gore re heletse ile gore le rona re ya go ile gore le hatse le ta thusega. We cannot keep on gongwe mo dikganyeng tse leng teng gompieno tsa gore motho because motho ga ke ma teacher gore mentoring ha rena le batho ba ile gore they are going to be responsible for that. Ga go nna motho because they are going to be very accountable because mo ja ka mo thutong hela go thola go bua mo thutong gore the teachers ke bone ba tshwantse re ba rute. I cannot go into class ke ya go ruta bana. So I need a qualified coach to come and teach. So I think le nna ke ne ke re gongwe ke la thele mo re encourage di center thata. Yes, I know that we School of Excellences, but re encourage gore go nne le di center thata tse leng gore ke tsone tse di ka re thusang ke a leboga.
All right, I think let's let them answer the questions.
Let him be the last. Baba
Arab. Okay, right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gilson Marenga from Matas Bay. I'm a volleyball player. Yeah, not a talent in Ngazubagore. Negeko Pahore Katsu Ale Heta, Era Heta meeting you. Hobo action in because we are really concerned with higher sports. The fact that is not everyone who wants to successful academically. The chance like what about those by successfully more academics? And then says we have kanya ya dinako mo dikolong ka ha di allocate ka teng ja re affect rona ba ile gore setse re join the sports ga rena nako ya go train go theleng re chaisa ka ha 4 ko sekolong. And then from there, we rush to the hostels, we change our apparel sports, and then roughly we train about 25 minutes. I was hosteling. So, really lose the skills the senior schools because harna na go train at develop. What we do, warm up each and every day. Harna skills gainer. And then haritswela konte outside the tswa mo sekolong ro gonna ka ha ke tsore ke reng ne hela ro gonna ka challenge ya gore ya no re join di team tse di tuna because we don't have any skills se rileng ka gore mo dikolong ga rana ka nako go se ithuta. And then lastly tota nenga go ba gore go nne le that maximum support mo di batho ma ba re coach mo dikolong because most of our coaches tse le re ja re coach ke batho ba tswang konte ba bana le di team tsa bone and stuff. But then, modina konse ba leng gore ba pitagane ka di team tsa bontse di konte ga gona o go coach mo dikolo so we just stay there re sa receive. So ne ke kopa ka tswetswe gore iska ya nna pisano hela a go nne le action after this.
Thank you. Please give me thank you. And because I really agree with you, but I think I just feel like I'm Metsukudi because a lot of the questions need to be Metsukudi.
Thank you, sir. If I got the question right, on abotsa hore, why don't we have a school of excellence go Northwest? Tota o itse hore I'm not in a position to give you a satisfying answer ya hore ke eng go ntse jalo. Mme hela gone, I agree with you that the schools that were selected as schools of excellence, let's on that number is not enough to cater for the population of learners that we have across the country. We must appreciate that, for a child to learn, they need to have support. They need to have support from their parents. They need support from their teachers. They need support from, community members. Yeah, if you take a child from Shakawe and send them to Good Hope, you are cutting off their support system. But an ideal situation would be having these schools across the country so that learners can access these schools where they are close to their support system. So I totally agree, Tota Hore, this should be something that should be all over the country. The current numbers that we have are not enough. The other question was?
The other question, I think, is Sanzalecha, talking about the facilities that are currently at the centers of excellence.
What are they there?
Yes.
This school, if you let me just pick Matters Bay. Matters Bay has got better facilities than most of our public schools. Good Hope is also the same thing. Like when there are sporting activities around, usually Matters Bay would be the host school because of the facilities that they have around their school. But these are few and far between, like I was saying. It's not every school in the country that have the luxury of such resources. And because of the inactivity, let's say they are not in the best state because they are not being used very often. You go there, we tell like dimidile around because there is with that much. Mehela, ideally, it would be a good thing to have these resources scattered across the country. They may not be enough for every learner in the country, but if there's one in the Northwest, 1 or 2, the Northeast, the Central region, because it's big, maybe 5 or so, then that would be better. And the last speaker, this should not be just a conversation. Talk is cheap. That's what you are saying. We understand the frustrations that the learners are having. There are certain learners that are really passionate about outside the classroom activities. Unfortunately, at the moment, we are not able to give them that. But we are working towards that because this is a gap that has left many children on the streets. Kana, besides just being something that we can live on, it makes you fit, both mentally and physically. And that would also enable you to learn better when you are in that physical state of fitness. Janu, total we are worried we are not doing enough as a ministry to get our learners to do sports. And I believe that we will take that advice and take it seriously for in the near future, the reintegration of sports back in our schools. It's not just the learners, there are teachers also who are passionate about sports, who would love to see sports back in our schools. Lerona hela would love to see sport in our schools. They keep children away from these social ills. A lot of our children are into drugs, and this is one thing that could keep them busy and keep them away from such things. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Metsukudu. Rezi Bocha, there was a question for you. What defines excellence? Is it academic excellence, sporting excellence, or a combination of both?
Yeah, it's simple. The both phenomena being combined, the dual will define the success. And that cannot be in isolation without observing certain predisposing causes that might pollute the success, such as a union or football. We look at probably the process of identification. And that alone, we look at nature versus nurture, because genetic makeup might have an influence on the academic acquisition of that individual. And the environment being nurture has its own role. As a union, we look at that. And that alone will probably enhance the aspect of success. Then after doing that, we look at the aspect of development of this individual who probably have realized there is one aspect which needs a backup of the other, and we actually enhance that so that there should be an equilibrium. Like I've said before, that we have some memorandum of understanding with certain universities, and some of these players have enrolled there. This is purely an aspect of balancing these two phenomena. One thing that is lacking in the world is that when you have done that, the aspect of monitoring will be lacking. So these players will fall between the cracks and end up not knowing where Tsotsongele is, because the monitoring aspect, it is not there. So the union is dwelling on that massively, rigorously, and also not forgetting that at the end, we are doing the evaluation of this individual, which informs research, because my union believes in evidence-based practice. It's not just saying this and that. And echoing to this gentleman here, this student who said, you know what, action.
Yeah.
As a union, we believe that boots, books, and hands, and hands, there should be expanded coverage of such through citizen advocacy and action. So citizen advocacy, everybody is there, professionals, communities, and so forth. The action should be there, my brother, because time and again, we shelve things.
Yeah, thank you. So much. I think, Rerari, there was a question for you, and I think it also includes Metsukuda about changing the curriculum to accommodate sport and education and balancing the two. Is that something that perhaps, and I like the question, I must say, is that something that is being worked towards between the Ministry of Basic Education and Child Welfare, the unions? Is that discussions that you're in terms of amalgamating the curriculum or changing it in order to balance books and boots?
Yeah, let me tell you where the challenge is. And if we don't face it, we won't get it right. It might be something difficult to deal with, but it has to be dealt with. The problem is, you have an academic program. I think he did indicate it, or they only have time for warm-ups. You have an academic program that runs from 7:30 and concludes at 4:30. So if you have got an academic program that runs like that, where do you fit in sports there? This is the biggest question. And what has been happening before sports could cease in schools was that, I described it anyway, was that it would then mean that the teachers, remember, there's no problem. Even if you bring in coaches who are not teachers, there's no problem. I'm trying to address the point that has been raised by my brother. There's no problem. But remember, there are also teachers who are coaches, who are qualified. A lot of them, in actual fact, who have done physical education, and they are qualified. But irrespective, whether you are bringing in somebody from outside, the program that has been taking place before this school sports stopped was that then after 4:30, it would mean that between 5 o'clock, because obviously students would have to go and take off their uniform and put on the right gear, then between 5 o'clock up to latest would be 6:30. That is the time when the students are doing sports. So as government, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing just these two sports? This is the question that needs to be answered. If the answer is no, let's think out of the box. What do we want to do? To me, the answer, I gave it when I started. The answer is, why do you want to push a child? There could be a few of them that would be interested in both. Why do you want to push a child who want to pursue a career in sports through to Form 5 and waste that child's time? Why don't you build a hub or a sport as a hub or a school of excellence for sports? I think what has been said about Good Hope, this is not what we are talking about. We are talking about academies that are government-sponsored academies where these children, when others are doing theory, science, mathematics, traditional subjects, simultaneously they are busy in the academies. It's only a government that is serious. Qatar has done it. They do it in Doha. It's only a serious government that would put resources. And then if you do that, you are also sending a message that we are serious about sports as a driver of the economy, as a means of livelihood. That is what we are saying. So, not to me, that is the answer. And we want to see that revolutionization of the education system of Botswana so that we move out of the orthodox where theory and academic are the ones that are propelled and accentuated. So, this is where the answer is. Thank you.
Thank you, Rerari. In the interest of time, let's go back.
We have questions from students and the parents here.
Yes.
So I'll just start with the student.
Let's start with the students, I agree. Dumela Ma.
Dumela. My name is Angela Tiara Meriki from Mattas Bay. I'm in Mattas Bay as a boarding student, and I just want to showcase the difference between the private and the public schools. I started my education at a private school in Orapa, and I was under the netball. I played netball. And when I was in my primary ages, netball was something that I was so supported. And then I moved to a public school, Juniara. And my skill that I had in netball is started every time because the skill that I grew up with is dead. The other thing that I want to say is I understand and I hear you guys, you're saying you want for a spot in necessity to million. But right? It's ko o tlo yang teng. Yes, you guys are gonna nature sports thata mo dikolong. Okay, we are going out, we are going to tertiary. How many tabogolitiles are we gonna have? We're not gonna have. So what are you saying? Okay, fine. We are nurturing the sport. Then what? Are you guys going to take it, advance it, making sure it reaches even higher levels for us? Can I ke master volleyball, ke master netball, ke master softball, ke sentse ke tsena school, and then ha ke tswa mo sekolong ke ranka skill se ke se gainileng. Are you guys planning something for after being in schools or thank you.
Thank you for that. Lovely question.
Dumela, standing before you, Guy Philip Prince Jungule, a prominent sports journal, a friend of Ace of Sports, if I look around the room, I'm the only sports journalist around in Francistown. I don't know what happened. But anyway, it's good. You said, go northwest, regular go northwest. The kind of identify talent. He look in sitting kakwa. Miano. Tuatakwala mokanyeni waki rezi watch. Gad combine. He gave an example of Cristiano Ronaldo. Why is it us, Mauzana, don't we have such facilities? How identify Angwana at an early age, like they are doing in the European? Why don't we have a special case where we identify those talents at a younger age and we segregate them to go to that kind of special school? In the essence that those skills are natured, not nurtured again. Mr. Zwochum, I would say, I love the fact that you are using ambiguous words and you're talking of policies. I want to ask you, during your tenure at the Zebras 2012, right? How many players who at the same time were studying and playing football, in this instance that by the time they hang their boots, they'll be coaches or doing something else? I'm saying this, I don't want you to mention Dipsy Sololwani because he had his academy long after he played his football, right? I'm saying this because you brought Ronaldo. We see many players from Europe, they study, play football at the same time. By the time they hang up boots, they are coaches. Rerar, when you started, the first question Slow asked, you answered saying, you are assuring these kids that school sports is coming, right? So I want you to give us a time frame for that and the engagements, because on the 5th of August 2025, when school sports was launched, you were against it. You said Buseti was not consulted, right? So I want you to give us a time frame on that. And what are the engagements? What are the roles of BISA? What are the roles of BOBSA? So that by the time we get here, Vincent, who is he left, will be happy. My dear sister here will be happy. Thank you so much.
Questions then, Ever?
Yes, I think it's best we answer. Let's start with Angela's question because I think it's directed at Reseleka, Metsukuru, Luana Rerar.
Thank you so much. Maybe there was a question that was directed to me earlier that I did not, or that was not answered. The advice that I would give to the young ones in the current situation in terms of balancing sport and education. The advice I can give you that in life there's nothing easy. When it's tough, you need to take tough decisions. You need to be resilient. You need to persevere. So here, when I started, I told you, or I indicated that sports now has become a multi-million dollar sector. Yes, education is important. She just mentioned for it. Now, if you don't have any educational certificate, you are not considered as anyone. But here's another opportunity. If you do sport, you might end up being, making some life out of sport, like a few that we know in our country. Those that you see behind you, their main job is sport. They live through sport. Their salaries is from sport. It's there. There are many examples that I can give you of people who have done this dual career, balancing sport and books, and they have been successful. I'm one of them. I've done sport from my standard 4 until my tertiary education, and here I am. I work as a director. That's a clear example that you can still balance. You can still be a sport person and be successful in one of, or in your the career that you would have preferred. So don't fear to do sport because you'll fail in your academics. It depends on how you allocate your time. You can't study 24 hours. Your mind gets blocked. You need to refresh. You need to relax. Yeah, when you go to sport, you are going to relax your mind. When you come and get your books now, you are refreshed and you are able to get new concepts. You are able to get what you learned during the day, only fresh. So balancing sport and education will always go together. Now the other one was, I think Mehalo and I touched it, but I'll touch on it again. Centers of excellence facilities that are not in a good state. Yes, I can assure you that though the facilities are not at the standard that we would want or would aspire to be in, I can assure you that but government has been doing something. The volleyball courts in Matas Bay, because Matas Bay is a center for excellence for volleyball, they were refurbished and the year, I don't, the sport master, they will recall the year. But I know they were dilapidated, but they were put in a good state. And you can attest to that you can do your training without your balls running too far from your courts, because they were fenced, they were, the surface was refurbished. You go to Good Hope, now they have a proper diamond, a softball diamond that is fenced, has stands and everything. That was through the support from government to improve the facilities at the centers of excellence. You go to your Mgodisani Senior, which is also a center of excellence. The netball courts were refurbished. That is not enough. You go to Radisil, it's also a center of excellence. Recently, we just handed to school the new volleyball courts and beach volleyball courts together with the ablutions. We did not only do the courts. We made with ablution closer to the courts, knowing that after training, you have to go and shower. It's not like that in every school, but that's where we want to go. We want to create that environment where we'll do sports nicely. We are also cognizant of the limited time that we have for training. That is a serious concern, and it takes it's our action item as leaders to see how we create that environment for you, because we have deprived you the opportunity to do sport for 6 years now. Some of you, we don't know, some of you could even have surpassed what these other guys have done in sport. We don't know. If you have been given that opportunity, maybe we would be having 10 Litziles, 30 Kibina Tsipis, who knows? But you are not given that chance. But I'm saying it's upon us as leaders to take that responsibility to say it's enough. We need to sit in the table and resolve this issue forever. Comrade Radri said it, that we need to, it's not easy. It's easy. We just need to sit around the table and discuss this, resolve our differences and give you the opportunity to also have a future. I think that is critical. And as a take home, as we go and engage our leadership, these are issues that we'll continue to push and advocate for, such that school sport is returned back. you are given that opportunity. The other one, the last one that I had to, was about the talent that is in the Northwest. Yes, you are right. That's where our gem is. If you look at that board behind you and count how many athletes are from the Northwest, there are more than 5. That tells you a story. And you know what? Something that I've learned about people from the Northwest, they love to stay in Northwest. No matter how much you try and take them to Gaborone, they will return back to their homeland, to their original place. So we have to come up with a plan to create some centers of excellence right in their area, in the Shakawe, in the Maung area, where we'll have them in those centers training and enjoying what they enjoy most, being the environment that they grew up in. I think that is something that we also take as an action item to go and present before our
Mr. Seleka, your mic.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you very much. Very briefly, I think it's a fact for sports. Senale botshelo jo bonyenyane. In terms of you being active and probably gaining some money out of it, it's a short life. But when we talk about those hubs and academies, we are not only talking about hubs and academies that would produce only athletes themselves. They will produce coaches, they will produce lecturers within the sports area. So let us look at it as a broad discipline that would drive individual economy and also the economy of the country. But I think the question was the timelines. No, we are a phone call away. We are always available for engagement. And any time that will be called for engagement, we will be there. And our timeline is as early as yesterday. So we are always there for engagement.
Thank you. Maitre Kudo.
The question was, what's next after school from Angel? Currently, there is no formal forum where we can say from Matters Bay you can go on to continue with your netball in place X or place Y. And I believe that it's something that needs to change so that people can then follow their career even after they complete their senior secondary school education. Most of the clubs that are there are now independent of government, like your volleyball teams, your softball teams, your netball teams. Those are teams that you join at will. But I do agree that there has to be something that is different, something that can continue what learners have studied or have learned during their secondary school education. The other question was, what do we do about the talent that we see in young people as those that we see in the Northwest? You know, for things to change, people have to come together around the table. Every stakeholder must take part in that discussion. For anything to change or for a policy to come into place, stakeholders must be there. The learners' views must be incorporated in that. The parents, the teachers, the administrators of education, the teacher unions, and all these other people that are there within the sporting codes. There has to be an agreement of what needs to change. The things that we talk about, maybe the things that we desire to see, but until there's a policy that enforces them to be implemented, we are always going to be talking about what we think is good and what we think can work for our children. But we need now, like somebody was saying earlier, that we need to act on what we are talking about. So I believe that, as it was suggested, one of the things that has to come out of this discussion has to be, what are we going to do and how are we going to do it? We have to sit together as stakeholders and come up with a policy that can work for those that we see as we move around in our schools. We recognize that they've got talent that could be cultivated in them.
So much for that. Let's watch for 30 seconds so that we can get everybody else to ask questions and have them answered
Yes,
sufficiently.
the question was, how many have you generated as a manager who have gone to the academic stream? There are more than 7. I can name them, but for the sake of shared confidentiality, I would not. But in terms of the union, we have realized that this is a huge gap. And the union, the long-term goal of the union is to establish a national football academy where the education and football grow together. And guided by who? CAF and FIFA, because we have seen there's no money. So where the money is here. So if we do that, and what we have also done is that these two phenomena, education and sports, should be seen to be captured in the club licensing and also in the contracts of these players.
Okay, thank you, Rezbosh. Ms. G, we have another question from the floor.
Good evening. My name is Boemo. I think mine is more of advice that we need an institutional reform, that the problem is more structural. I believe that in any and every organization, like right now, we have the photographer doing his thing. We have him speaking. We have someone capturing the sound over there. So it's karari. No, the teachers will do this, and then after school, they'll be the ones doing that. Even if you're a coach, coach, you're no longer a teacher continuing on. Like you already said, we shouldn't take sports as an afterthought. And then another thing is, in my profession, we believe in the bottom-up approach. Reintegrate sports back into schools and to balance academics and sports. But the numbers of the people we're here for is alarming. So maybe we should do better in terms of marketing and getting the word out there. Kenamo Francistown, next time just holler and we'll do the things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lovely suggestion.
I'm very disappointed with the way we have been handling sports in our country. And I'm to believe next year, it will be the 10th year Hosena school sports next year. And renale bogogi jo bo re leteletseng pele go bo gotwe matitšhara ba re le tools down potso ya me be nna gore a bana bone ba re le tools down le bone. We have got bodies tse leng gore they are responsible for pushing this. But Mr. Selik, you've been there. You have got people in different regions. They are coaches. They are not teachers. Don't you have any modality in place where you can utilize those coaches? But they want to do sports. Baba train. I don't want to believe ke issue ya di facility. Facilities are there. There's a lot of spaces around here. Say le ka se dirisa. Ya no, potso even na gape gore lona bo Metsukudu But Mr. Rari, Boreselik, you are not meeting somewhere so that they take a resolution, it will not bring a backlog, more sport in Saron, Malahatsin Labotuan. It's good. The biggest mistake that you made from your department after establishing those centers of excellence, but the right personnel were not sent to those schools. Good coaches. I remember Keloko Pikwe, SPSS. I was playing Mohodisani. The best students were sent there. I managed to beat that team. Why? Because of the wrong personnel. And we talk, like somebody has said, do we plan properly? And do we supervise our plan? Do we support our plan? Kenale, 2 years, more Francis Town. I grew up here. I did my standard 1 here, up to Form 5, Matters Bay. I'm back, more Francis Town. 2 years, I'm still watching. Borre zibochwa keeper. Hakitsuru na ledu ngakhatseka mo Francis Town. But when we talk of football, how many of our athletes are in the national team? We have got great players that have done football. I'm a person who believes in action. We talk, we do. But now, if you are to talk without any action, we're still going to wait for another 10 years. People have been talking along all these 10 years. What is it that you have brought forth? Says it different from what has been talked before. Say next year we'll see action in place. My last thing is that talent is there. These young ones, they've got a lot of energy. By channel in different areas. Kerry, let's sit down. Let's try to revise the curriculum. These young ones, ba khone go tswa mo sekolong well on time, ba ye go train ka kontle. There are a lot of coaches outside there that are willingly to train these guys. But it's us who doesn't want to think outside the box. So that the sport is with or without teachers. Now that is what I'm vying for. We're going to have a big backlog. More especially in the football. From time to time. We need those skills. If we lose them from Mosensolo Munyan, why is it, Mr. Zibocho? Why is it? How do you position your body so that how to similar another seconds? That is a skill that you get at a mature age. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Edumela, Kena Tienge Pingamongobe from Matters Bay. Okay, and my question is, how would they incorporate sports in schools? Again, we are balancing sports and education. Mo Botswana, in my opinion, sports, how we work sports, it's always volleyball or football. Good is I think ball sports and athletics, right? And then the athletics part in track. And then everyone's like, okay, but how many little are going to be there? Like she was saying, for God's sake, what's his name? Bashir, Wakokata, high jump. When are those sports going to be incorporated? Can I hold the sports volleyball and football and track? What about other sports? Because we are limiting other kids we are only limited to certain sports. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Simon. Mine is not actually a question, but from a benchmark perspective. I've been to South Africa, Soweto. I've seen Kaizer Chiefs club. I'm not a follower of football though, but I've seen the club. You know, the way it's done in such a way that these guys, they learn from the club, as old as they are. They learn from the club, both English, both mathematics, and just analyzing their skills in theology. One thing that I realized that why we're not making it as Botswana is because we point fingers. This guy is not doing well and this one is not doing well. But just look at the community, South Africa. They've managed to bring up a small club into a big club where they have academy in their own clubs, where they have kids who comes from the community and get to learn from as little as grade 7 upwards. They learn something that is hand in hand with what they are doing as in sports. So this is what we are missing in our country. Something that would drive us, personal motivation. That's what we're lacking. I think maybe we put more of our time in looking at those that are up there, but not tapping in our inner self and say, what is it that I can do as a coach? I heard one coach saying, the reason why we are losing is because we don't do things accordingly, or the leaders are not doing things accordingly. But that's not the case. He said he had a team that he pushed up and they won, which showed that if you put passion in what you are doing, at the end of the day, it will break through. So why can't we push that motive to each and every person, to each and every student, that we need to find a zeal in what we are doing and build a social community that would actually put themselves out there. There are people outside just for sport. If you don't know that, just for sport. Ngwana ela tsewa ke matsadi wa gagwe a re no ngwana ke lemogile gore o itse go tshameka football, a ba mo isa ko lehatsheng le sele a go ithuta gone go mo. Why can't we bring those people by they are professionals? They know how to teach both sports and academy. Why can't we bring them here? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there
I
one
have
more,
two
Ms.
questions.
G?
I have 2 questions. Oh,
Thank you. Dumelang bagolo. Ke bidiwa Nka Umogatle. From Bosetu, Secretary for Sports and Culture, Bosetu. Ke utlwile dikakelo tse ntsi, but I don't know if mine is a question or I'll just make it maybe a malleable statement. You'll take it to any shape. It's a question or a comment. But I want us to scratch where it's itching. We've been analyzing this, and really there are teachers in place, there are coaches in place, that is the public. There is a learner in place, and also I've been listening and the political authority that always comes as a hindrance. I will say so because there is too much political interference in the running of sports. either in, ko sekolong or out of school. But we see it a lot happening in schools because le bone batho ba BNSC, like my younger brother here was suggesting earlier on to say, we must act, re buile. But Leone BNSC, if it wants to act on something, they might have limitations because of political interference. That we must be honest with. Leone Resebochwa as a union, High Lord, they want to reach out to Bo, FIFA and all that, Bo KEF, they might have such restrictions. I'm here as a representative, I'm a teacher. Teachers have never said we tools down as a matter of saying, no, we are punishing learners, no. Like Comrade right here said, they wanted to be recognized for going extra mile. I'm one teacher who has obtained a KEF C license out of my pocket. Out of my days, working days, leave days, but for the sake of school sports. I was doing that for the sake of learners. So that is how we love sport. I want for the public, teachers are so, they have their sports in their hearts. So they cannot, there is no how they can say, and we should know and understand the relationship between a learner and a teacher, but it's very vital. It can be even more than of that learner and his biological or her biological parent. That relationship between the teacher and, so we cannot divorce a learner from a student. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go.
Good morning, good afternoon once again. Tata, I'm concerned, not personally. Do you have a way the importance of sports? Because sometimes limit sports. I remember I joined volleyball kibala form 2 but both my mother and my father volleyball because yes, academically I'm gifted, but not that much. Mihel, I'm gifted. Yes, but at the end of the day, say volleyball is interesting by level. And that ever since this hour for Sekitaka Kanaka Sone Kabachana, kin need. Ronar Levachana, what I have realized, Kihori, relata the output that this one sports into our lives, but Harate to put that input power sports is about that. Kihagolo, Haki heads are from 3. The result that is now also. Can I try to get Shaka? But none of them went about the gear shaka with senior. One about like it's Hanika, Kering. So one about any stress, bank is a guy, what. But the Hono hell, a volleyball based in a very because only dedicated. Utsamika volleyball, Ribono, who can Rahota, Rahonala sponsorship, who is a sport of excellence, Spain. And then a Bebaho Rata so just because I know it is a symptom of ball. So I'm under caring support ya volleyball. Every time Riwa Mada 23 Haritswala ba repair ya magaeng ha bula ba repair re boela kwana ha gona hape ha motsadi a matsanang teng. So because of sone se le hore volleyball se ntiseditse ke gona ha batsadi ba rona ba ratang teng. So ne ke kopa gore yana le bate nngwe tsela ya gore ha le ntse le discuss zondo tsa le involve batsadi ba rona mote ba itse gore mosola wa teng ke. And then se sengwe gape ke gore ga re bua ka developing sports and balance sports and education at the same time in schools. Le bua ka rona bana. But ga ke isko ke ute upe ngwana mo dikolong a re ke ne ke le go di discussion le Minister of Sports tsa gore di sports di affecta jang, di sports di re tlisetsa eng mo matshelong a rona. While sa re involve la bona mathata a rona ka sports, la bona gore sports se re tlisetsa eng ya la rona personal. Most of times le bua ka kganya gore sport sa re dia sport sa reng ke ha ke mo Matters Bay ke ra di pure sciences mme a ke so ke ipone ke faila because of volleyball go thelele ke thola ke aga borone ba re sa lo ba tsere go tshameka di game but still a ke tswa kwa ke ga isa bone ba ntse ba ne ba setse ha le tswala re sport sa re affect how guys ke kopa le re involve hape le rutele batsadi ba rona ko malapeng yes.
Unfortunately, we invited the athletes, so but last minute, hence they're not here. And then Rezi Bocha, even though I'm winning, Kimozad, Ona Lebana Batamika sports.
Okay, in the interest of time, ladies and gentlemen, we've run out and we would like to wrap up this discussion. If each panelist in under 2 minutes could just answer some of the questions that they can answer and give their final remarks, would really appreciate it. We can go from my far right, coming down to my left, Rasilika.
I would not answer all of them, but I'll go to the ones that touched me the most. The last speaker touched me the most. You know, I feel for you because now I had the whole opportunity to do sport and do my academics. And where I'm sitting in a position of authority, of course, though there are other on top of me that have to take other decisions. But you know, let me speak of the BNSC. As the BNSC, we are not just seated, school sport is the same. We are trying to push our programs that can give any student an opportunity to play sport. You know, centers of excellence. We are trying to expand it. We are in the process of expanding the centers of excellence. For in the meantime, I wasn't only the issue that are school sport. For at least we know it will not cover all of you, but at least the very few potential ones could be gathered in those schools and be given the opportunity to progress their athletic career. We have done that in all our centers of excellence. We have personnel which are not teachers, who are working with teachers to coach you. And we have not brought those people to replace teachers. We have brought them to work together with teachers, knowing that teacher during but that person will stand in the absence of the teacher coach. So those are things that we are doing. Our program here, grassroots, we are marketing it in accessible to many other children around the country. So all these programs, we are trying to, expand them. We also get a number learning never stops. We keep on, when we started this centers of excellence, because the parents have to consent, the parents have to consent. Some of the parents back then, they didn't know and they refused for students to go to these centers of excellence. But later on, after, just to give you a bit of background, after the story of Karawosi Banda and Babuluki Tebe, who were taken by the Center of Excellence here, Good Hope, and immediately they went to become world champions in sport. And some of the parents started believing that our sport has the power to give you, the future. So that's when now even parents, some of the parents now, they call us for Center of Excellence. Even before I select you, those that have been the selectors or the national sport associations that are responsible to pick talent around to centers of excellence. So we are saying it's not enough, but we'll keep educating parents and the community, the entire community, about the importance of sport and even education, just the dual career, or it's important for the future of you guys. Ke tsaya gore
Yeah.
ke di- ha ke a tsana kwa gago ntse.
Hey, thank you. Rarare.
Inyame ra leboga. Ke tsaya gore se neng se buiwa ke bontsi se ntse se supa se re tswang kgakala re se bua gore I think ha o bua gore motsadi wa gago o tla ba a gore a re concentrate mo dithutong ngwanaka, concentrate mo dithutong, go kaya culture ya ka ha thuto ya lehatshe la Botswana le sports sa Botswana se agegileng ka teng. Ke sone se utlwang rona re re go tlhokana le a drastic revolution ya go e tatang e supa gore sports le sone is of equal importance le academics. And we have made a proposal ya gore how could that be done? A ke gane go na le bana ba e leng gore jaaka wena o le very good in academics, but at the same time o le very good in sports. You can still go to the two academies. But obviously, go na le bana ba e leng gore ba diela nako ka go ba phesiwa theory le academics, mme ko bohelelong ja letsatsi go ba diela nako hela. Go na le gore ba ke ba ya go concentrate kwa ba lebaganeng teng. So I think the comments tse dintseng di buiwa ka batsadi le ka ha batho general mo Botswana ba tsayang sports ka teng go supa culture ya kwa re tswang teng gore sports sa rona se santse se tsewa se le subsidiary to education. So I think this is what we have said, and we have even suggested how could we break that hoodoo? How could we break that culture? We need to break it. We need, as a country, as a government, to show that sports can be a sector that drives the economy, that drives the individual lives of Botswana.
Thank you, Rarare. Metsukuru.
Tota hela, I think the concerns of our learners are very valid. And it's high time we do something about this issue ya sports. Mehela, we must know when sports comes back, it's going to be full sports. You are going to have your javelin, your discus, your high jump, your long jump, your athletics, your long distance running, short races, all those things are going to be there, just like it used to be. So, I want to believe that there is something that is being done. So don't give up yet. It might find you while you are still there at Matters Bay, and you will have the opportunity to participate in your preferred sporting activity. And I also want to comment on what one of the speakers was saying about parents and educating them about the importance of sports. Every single time when you introduce something new, you are likely to face resistance. And parents are one group that resists some of the programs that are presented to them. And yes, it is a good idea that we educate our parents about sports and its value in the lives of young children. So it's important for us to give sports the same respect that we give to academics. The state of affairs where academics are dominant in our schools, that has to change, because now we know that you can graduate with a degree and go home and be your mother's maid, when there is a likelihood that you may have a skill that you can utilize. So these are some of the things, some of the things that we will definitely take back to the Ministry of Child Welfare and Basic Education, have discussions about way forward, and change the current situation in our schools. We need sports. We don't just want to see sports in our schools. We need sports, because sports has got positive results. We know that learners that are in sporting activities are disciplined, they've got leadership skills, because these are the things that they learn when they are playing. Because we have a team captain, in every team there's a team captain. Learners are given roles that teach them competencies that are transferable to actual life. A lot of what they learn from sporting activities are skills that they can apply to their daily living. So yes, sports is important, and it's time that we prioritize the reintegration of sports in our schools. And if everything goes according to plan, we should have sports in our schools by the beginning of 2026. So let us not despair. Something is going on behind the scenes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Metsukudu. Last but not least, Rezi Watch.
Yes.
Under 2 minutes.
Thank you very much. An exciting audience with beautiful questions. What I've actually deduced from the floor is that you are concerned, more especially you athletes as individuals. So we need to embark on a tripartite approach or a triangulated approach, where there is this individual you, like I've said from the convention, the UN convention, that you have to be heard. Very, very important. So that is your participation. That is your involvement. We need to involve you. I'm saying triangulated because there is also this aspect of the parents. We need to be very, very close to these parents, and also strategic partners. Strategic partners are these. That's why I'm saying it's a triangulated approach. So if we can dwell on that, we'll be able to defeat a lot of things. Then out of that, we should come up with a dual career policy and partnership. And as time evolves, we should drift into an act, because, sometimes policies don't bite as acts or legislations. I'm from Marobela. This is my first, I'll be completing my probably 1 year, 6 months, having retired, but in Marobela. We have, icons in Marobela. I cannot mention them now. Bondingo Jua, the Patrick Zibochwas, the Nigel Amos. We were sitting down with that boy, mentoring him, and where he is now, because he has integrated the aspect of the academic sphere into his life. Now he'll strive from that. And on earth, there must be 1%, inspiration, then 99% perspiration. Inspiration now that he has integrated the academic aspect as a coach, and there's this gentleman Maslow, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. It talks about the physiological need, but I usually place education into the basic needs, not more security. But if the basic needs is education, is sports, then the self-actualization of this person are those guys there. The team Botswana. So Nahela Kirihela, education is dynamic, it's not static. So with sports, they are Tswana. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Razibocha. Ms. G.
Thank you so much for attending. Ke dumela gore re tla kopana mo nakong e tang. Ska la tshaba go nna le bua. Le buile maikutlo a lona ba le utule. Re dumela gore tse tsotlhe tse le di buileng di tla gore ngwaga o tlang e be le gore yaanong di a implementiwa e seng mo go buiwang hela.
I agree. I agree. Let's talk more action. And as we close out this evening's special edition of Ace of Sports here at the Francistown Civic Center, one message clearly stands clear. Education and sport are not opposing forces, but they are complementary paths for holistic development. And our gratitude goes out to our panelists, Re Peaceful Selega, Re Patrick Zbocha, Re Tobokane Rari, for thrive both in the classroom and on the field. Thank you so much. And thank you so much to everyone that was in attendance. Thank you so much for making this a success. The questions you asked really impressed Kabanaba School. Thank you so much. And all the best. Let's hope for a and one last time to thank our partners, the Gambling Authority of Botswana, Botswana National Sports Commission. Thank you for partnering with us to make this a possibility. Motaung Doppers, Evolia Sportswear, Khalawata, we also have Bosetu Botobokanera have supported us as well. Francistown City Council for the venue, as well as T-Connect Botswana for the high-speed Wi-Fi that has enabled us to be on YouTube, streaming live, and the crystal clear sound on our airwaves. Thank you so much. And from us at Ace of Sports, Lekamos. Good evening.
Yes, yes, yes. We have to yes, yes, yes. What part of the no, some of you remember that. I came